Number 2, state the measures implemented to ensure harmony in primary schools, especially considering the different uniforms and titles for grade 7 pupils and class 8. 3, provide a list of secondary school lacking functional laboratories. Clarify the number of times candidates in these schools have taken KCSE practical exams elsewhere, and state whether these schools will be equipped with laboratories before equipping junior secondary schools. Question number 4, outline the total number of lessons each pupil is supposed to offer per week, the requisite hours for rest, and why there has been an increase in the number of primary school pupils attending lessons over the weekends. Question number 5, give reasons why the book, the Diary of Wimpkid, which contains very obscene language, has not been banned from the circulation. Outline measures put in place to ensure books with improper language are not allowed into the country. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
CS.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for those questions. Mr. Speaker, the answer to question 1 is that the government has not issued and/or made any policy directive to transfer secondary school teachers in any physics, chemistry, biology, and history to junior school. There's no such policy by the government. Question 2, the measures taken. Mr. Speaker, junior schools are domiciled in existing primary schools. The ministry issued the guidelines for the implementation of junior school education in January 2023. Mr. Speaker, the guidelines stipulate that junior school leadership shall determine the uniform for their schools in consultation with the respective stakeholders and the sub-county director of education. This includes additional unique features for identification and branding of the institutions. The guidelines also provide clear that no learner shall be excluded from school for failure to afford a school uniform. Mr. Speaker, the determination of school uniforms through stakeholder involvement is meant to ensure that the specific school community decides on the uniforms that is sensitive to their needs of the school, thereby ensuring that there is harmony. In any event, Mr. Speaker, junior school and primary schools are under the same board management and the same head of institution, thereby creating a basis for harmonious functioning in the same institution. Mr. Speaker, we also wish to inform the House that the last cohort of Class 8 sat their examinations in December 2023. Currently, all learners in grade 7 onwards are in junior school under the competency-based education. Mr. Speaker, on question 3, the schools that are lacking functional laboratories. Mr. Speaker, the list of schools without laboratories is provided in Annex 1 of our written report. There are, however, a total of 1,366 secondary schools countrywide that do not have functioning laboratories. Mr. Speaker, in the next financial year, we have made a plan to construct approximately 2,000 laboratories in secondary schools, and that will be covered in these schools that do not have laboratories at the moment. Mr. Speaker, we will also be seeking the support of the House to provide further resources for the construction of these particular laboratories, especially as we approach the 100% transition to senior school next year. I wish to once again thank members of Parliament for the support they have given us in funding infrastructure development in schools through NGCDF. We look forward to further support in equipping these secondary schools and these labs. Mr. Speaker, I wish to request for additional time to be able to provide information on the actual number of times that candidates in each of these specific schools have taken KCSE practical exams elsewhere other than in the schools that they are supposed to have done because of the lack of the laboratories. I wasn't able to get that information, and I wish to get lower primary, which is grade 1 to 3, and upper primary, which is grade 4 to 6. The implementation of the curriculum is designed in a timetable that changes with the levels as the learners graduate or progress. The timetable for pre-primary level presents 5 lessons per day and 25 lessons per week, and they have 4 breaks each, including day break. At the lower primary level, grade 1 to 3, the timetable presents 6 lessons per day, 31 lessons per week with 4 breaks per day. At the upper primary level, grade 4 to 6, the timetable provides for 7 lessons per day, 35 lessons per week, which lasts for 30 minutes each. There are 4 breaks per day. At grade 7, 8, and 9, which is junior school, the timetable presents 8 lessons per day. Each lesson takes 40 minutes. There are 41 lessons per week, including pastoral times, and there are 4 breaks per day. Mr. Speaker, I wish to confirm that the official timetable does not accommodate any programs for attending lessons over the weekend. Learners are expected to rest on Saturdays and Sundays and on public holidays. Any instances in which learners are required to attend school over the weekend will be therefore irregular. The ministry will take appropriate corrective action once such cases are reported to us. In the response, Mr. Speaker, I have provided a table that stipulates what I have just indicated, and I do not need to go through it because of time, but it is clear that we have 25 lessons for pre-primary per week, 31 lessons for grade 1 to 3, 35 lessons for grade 4 and 6, 41 lessons for junior school. Mr. Speaker, on the question of the book, The Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the mentioned book is not part of the books that have been approved by the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development for use in our schools. The regulation, however, of books circulating in Kenya is within the purview of the Ministry of Information, Communication and Digital Economy within the legal framework of the Books and Newspapers Act Cap 111. We have brought the subject matter to the attention of the said ministry for appropriate action, and we will follow up to confirm that that particular offending book has been deregistered from approval.
Member for Westlands.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I would like to ask the Minister, Bwana Sears, we have these teachers who are employed by the Board of Management, BOM. So sometimes when these teachers are absorbed by TSC, why is it that when they are absorbed by TSC, they are posted outside the jurisdiction where they have been operating? They are not even allowed to be posted back to the schools that have actually been supporting them. They are even posted outside the county. I remember within my constituency, there were teachers who were employed by BOM, and when they were absorbed by TSC, they were posted to Kajiado and other counties outside Nairobi. Why is that so? And Bwana Sears, then the GSS, there are some schools that have got more children in this junior secondary, and you find that the ratio teacher to the pupils, to the students, is like some schools just have about 1 or 2 teachers. How do you ensure that these children will get adequate lessons from these teachers, because I don't think 2 teachers can manage to handle 200 students alone. Thank you.
Yes, yes, Ferdinand Wanyonyi, and you'll be the only joyrider to that.
Yeah, on question number 4, the CS, you have said it's illegal for schools to have lessons over the weekend. Pana CS, I don't know why it should be illegal, because there is also a catch-up. Just in case there's a problem, maybe the teacher was sick or something like that, why should you say this will be illegal to have lessons over the weekend? Yet that is just maybe for the particular class or whatever to catch up in case there's been a problem.
CS.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the question of the BM teachers who are absorbed by TSC, once the teachers have been absorbed by TSC, they become subject to the guidelines and regulations that govern the TSC employed teachers, one of which is that they can be transferred to work anywhere in the country. And that is the reason why that transfer happened and you are moved from where you were to another place, because now you are subject to a completely different set of regulations and you become a teacher of TSC, not the teacher for that particular BOM school. And that is the reason why that transfer or that posting is done. The question of the teacher-student ratio in JSS, it is true we have a shortage of the teachers, but the ministry through TSC and other stakeholders have employed 46,000 intern teachers to curb this shortage. We're also planning to employ another 20,000 teachers. And during the month of December, TSC and other multi-agency organizations will be retooling the existing teachers so that they are trained well enough to be able to take up the lessons that are required for grade 9 in the junior school, so that that gap is reduced. But the reason why we have those shortages is because of financial constraints, and as we keep getting budget, we'll keep increasing the number and reducing the gap of the teacher-student ratio. And we are going to be ensuring that we are using other aids, including digital teaching, so that the students get as much as possible out of the lessons they are getting in order for them to get the actual standard lessons that they need to get. I indicated that on the question of weekend lessons, they are not official. I didn't say they are illegal, Mheshimiwa Wanyonyi. I said it is irregular. It's not usual. It is irregular because it's not a legal requirement for us to have them over the weekends. But where teachers and the students agree and the parents, they can have those remedial classes in agreement by consent. But it's not a government policy that we should have lessons on weekends as a legal or as a circular or as a government position. It is something that they can do as an arrangement within themselves. But it is not illegal. I said it is irregular. There's a bit of a difference there. Thank you, Mwesh.
Question 091 of 2024, member for Kinango. Honorable Gonzirai.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to ask question number 091. Could the Cabinet Secretary provide the status of the delayed pension payment for Mr. Salim Mdalu Ndegwa, who was a teacher at Nzovuni Primary School up to 30th of June 2022, when he was put on compulsory retirement? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The processing of Mr. Salim Mdalu Ndegwa's pension stalled due to the disparities in his set of names as indicated on the various documents in the teacher service record. The teacher's names on record seem to refer to different persons. The commission duly communicated this to the teacher. He was requested to obtain a deed poll if he intended to have changed his names. It is noted from the record that the teacher's documents bear the following different sets of names: Salim Mndalo as one set, Ndegwa Mundalo as another set, Mndalu Chirunga another set, and lastly Mndalu Salim Ndegwa Chirunga, respectively. These disparities were noted on the academic and professional testimonials, as well as the old generation identity card that particular teacher used. A reminder was sent to the teacher via a letter dated 15 February 2024 to submit a deed poll in order to regularize his names. However, to date, that teacher has not submitted the same to facilitate the finalization of his claim. A copy of the letter to the teacher is provided as annexure number 2. Thank you, I submit.
Gonzirai, I think that is very clear. Do you have any supplementary?
It is very clear, but what is actually bothering me is that on 6th of February 2024, I wrote to them requesting if there was any problem. Today I'm being told they wrote on 15th and the teacher has not received that letter. Currently he's in hospital. So if I could just get a copy of that letter, I could just facilitate the deed plan for the exercise to be expedited. Thank you.
Provide the details to
We'll provide the details before we leave.
Didoraso.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Waziri, the issue that has been presented to you is not a standalone one. Teachers work for very many years, maybe 40 years, 45, stretching up to 50 years. But when it comes to pension, they actually slog. They spend a lot of money to come to Nairobi to look for their pension. Are you able to put a policy in place such that those who have worked for many years actually will receive their pension in ease? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I'm discouraging many joyriders, but give him give Honorable Melemba the mic.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I confirm. The question, the way it has been answered, looks very simple and easy. But good luck, somebody else has talked about it. What is the ministry doing about pensions for teachers? Because now it's a broad thing that's affecting many families, that many teachers are unable to get their pensions on time. Thank you.
Dorothy, what is it? I said I want only one joyrider. Give Dorothy.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I too rise to ask the ministry what they are doing to streamline this pension payment to alleviate the suffering of teachers who retire. Honorable Speaker, it is evident that, as it has been alluded, that teachers work for close to 40 years, and after retire, they languish, and some of them eventually die even before receiving their pension payment. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Speaker. This concern is well noted, and since we are doing the review of the actual TSC acts and other legal instruments that govern this sector, we will indeed bring it upon ourselves to ensure that we have done an amendment to how the pension fund for the TSC is run, to include, I think, a provision that once a teacher is about to retire, 12 months to that retirement age, the processing of their documentation and what needs to happen when they retire in terms of their pension should be in place, so that they do not have to leave and then come back to TSC to be able to get their pension. It should be done while they're in service during the last year of their service. So we'll include it in our regulations.
Question 093 of 2024, member for Nairobi County, Esther Passaris. Esther Passaris, question dropped. You can't joyride on no question. Question 094, 2024, Victor Koech, Mandazi, is he in the house? Honorable Victor Koech of Chepalungu. Question dropped. Question 096 of 2024. Member for Nyeri Town, Duncan Madenge. Order. Honorable Madenge, question dropped. Question 097 of 2024, member for Emuhaya Omboko Milemba.
Very well, Honorable Speaker. I'm asking the following question to the Cabinet Secretary for Education. Will the Cabinet Secretary explain why the Ministry is yet to provide authorization for purpose of conducting fresh parent associations election in various counties and sub-counties? Parent associations. Number two, provide a specific date when the parent association elections in various counties and sub-counties would be held. And number three, state measures in place by the Ministry to ensure that in future elections are conducted on a regular basis for effective management of schools. And further, is the Cabinet Secretary aware that a Teacher Service Commission was to do promotions of more teachers, but somewhat they have been curtailed by the Ministry of the Treasury to do what otherwise they would have done, because they don't need any monies from Treasury, but they just need to use their own monies, to promote about 45,000 teachers. And you being the oversighting ministry, you could make a comment on that. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And for the record, Honorable Gonzi Rai has received the letter. You can confirm we have given you that letter for Ndalu. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, may I respond to the questions asked by Honorable Mboko as follows? Mr. Speaker, paragraph 5 of the third schedule of the Basic Education Act 2013 provides that there shall be established a national parents associations, county parents associations, and sub-county parents associations elected by parents associations from schools through a delegate system. Just like other registered associations, Mr. Speaker, the National Parents Association is guided by its own constitution. The association does not require the authorization of the Ministry of Education to hold elections at the county and sub-county levels. The constitution of the association provides for the conduct of elections of its officials. As a ministry, Mr. Speaker, we are available upon request to provide any facilitative support to the extent possible to enable the associations undertake free, fair, and transparent elections in accordance with their constitutions. Mr. Speaker, in terms of management at the school levels, we have ensured compliance with the requirements of paragraph 1 of the third schedule of the Basic Education Act 2013. There are functional parents associations in our schools. Parents are also represented in the school's boards of management as required by Section 56, subsection 1 of the Act. There was a question on promotion of teachers by TSC. I didn't have that question on record, so I don't have the data. I could be given time to get the data, and then I can respond to it. It was not on the question paper.
Thank you. Milemba? Honorable Milemba?
The Honorable Minister has given a very straightjacket answer to my question. But Parents Association, Honorable Speaker, was actually supposed to be managed in a way that we have a safety valve in our schools. And it was the responsibility of the ministry to make sure that that organ is operating, because originally we had several of them and were competing against each other in a way that education was not running properly. And he is aware of that. So as he says that he is waiting to be approached for any difficulties, is he aware that such elections have never been held for the last more than 6 years? And therefore, what is he doing as a minister to make sure
In
that
all
that
schools or in some specific schools?
all schools, all places. So therefore, what is the ministry doing in its responsibility as a minister of education, running of education, to make sure that that happens? He cannot run away from it.
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, as I've indicated, the parents' associations in our schools are functional and they are available. What may not have taken place is the elections in the National Parents Associations, which is like an umbrella body. And I'm getting that information now that there have not been elections in 6 years. I'm going to be able to look into it and find out what role the ministry can do to undertake to ensure that that is done. Yeah,
Thank you. Pasares?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know you called my question when I wasn't here. I apologize. We have a delegation from China, and I had asked a question to the delegation, and I had to wait for the answer, as it would be unparliamentary to ask a question to a foreign delegation and then leave before they give the answer. I beg to ask the question 093.
I have not given you authority. You are only explaining why you are not here.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, you know that when we come with these questions, because we exchange
include provision friendship allowance to technical, vocational, friendship allowance to technical, vocational, and education tech training tutors in Yatta constituency, despite their counterparts employed by the Teachers Service Commission receiving such allowance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At the outset, Mr. Speaker, I wish to state that there are different allowances schemes for the teachers who are employed by the Teacher Service Commission and technical trainers who are part of the National Public Service. The current designation of hardship areas for the National Public Service is set out in the circular by the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service dated 7th of December 2015 under reference number OB/CAB 0.1.31A. A copy of that circular is annexed as annexure number 5. The area where Yatta Technical Vocational College is located is not among the designated areas or hardship areas. On the other and legal notice number 534 of 1997 under the Teachers Service Commission Act includes Yatta Division as a hardship area. A copy of the legal notice is also provided as an annex number 6. Mr. Speaker, we are working with the relevant government agencies under the leadership of the Ministry of Public Service and Human Capital Development to streamline the framework on the payment of hardship allowance. We have taken note to highlight these discrepancies to the Ministry of Public Service and Human Development for appropriate action. I submit.
Anton Oluoch. Sorry, Basil.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think the response is not satisfactory and is actually discriminating when you say some tutors should not receive allowance like other tutors who are facing the same challenges like them. So I think the ministry needs to do some research to ensure there is parity when it comes to giving allowance to tutors. Mr. Speaker, I also have another question on the capitation funds. For 2023, there were arrears of more than 22% of capitation funds to my primary schools. So can the ministry explain why is it so? Number two, now we are in an examination period and my sub-account directors of education have no means of transport, Mr. Speaker, and I raised that question to the ministry. So can the ministry tell us whether they are going to give a vehicle for my sub-account directors to boost their mobility as they discharge or deliver services in the sub-county? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And in a related question, I think the Cabinet Secretary has a duty to let the members know what the general policy of the ministry is to ensure that TVETs, which this house every year allocates money to, and it's supposed to be a bridge between the universities and people who cannot make it to the universities, do not collapse. And I ask this because of the perennial non-remittance of capitation to TVETs. Could the Cabinet Secretary enlighten what the policy is generally to ensure TVETs do not collapse and that they get capitation like the universities? Thank you.
Barto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a related question on TVET. I want to ask the Cabinet Secretary, when is he planning to complete Moiben School of TVET, which has been incomplete for the last 15 years?
Members, I said only one joyrider. Now I see so many hands. Tuitum.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The issue of undisable allowance is a weighty matter in this country. In 2021, there was a tripartite task force that went around the entire country, mapping out regions that need to be included in the unsafe areas. Is the minister aware that that report has not been released yet? And why has it not been released? Because the task force involved the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Interior, and the TSC to map out new regions that require handshake allowance. And again, it is the civil service or civil servant within an unsafe area who are supposed to be benefiting, not the categories, whether you are in Tibet, you are a teacher, or you are in any other country. Thank you.
CS.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To Honorable Basil's question, on the question of capitation, the capitation is normally released based on the exchequer that is received, and it is distributed across the country to all the learners. And as I think I was here before and I indicated that there has not been a year when capitation has been released 100%. There's always a shortfall, and as a government, we try as much as possible to ensure that what we get, we distribute it evenly across the country so that as many children as possible can get to school. In terms of the hardship question, hardship area question, and I can answer that generally, is that it is true that there are discrepancies on how the issue of hardship is determined. In fact, the other day I was in Rabai, which is a hardship area. It is also not registered as an hardship area. So as a ministry, what we've done is do a document, and we are presenting it to the Ministry of Public Service in order for them to harmonize the hardship areas, because like in Yatta, you'd find the TSC are determined as hardship and then the trainers are not hardship because they fall in the civil service. That is not right. So we are working towards harmonizing that whole area of the issue surrounding hardship so that it is harmonized, it is determined, it is clear, there is clarity around it. So we are working towards ensuring that it is harmonized. On the question of Moiben, the challenge that has been there is a question of getting funds for the infrastructure. We have a number of institutions that are incomplete, and Moiben is part and parcel of that. So what we have done under the TVET department is to come up with all the register of all the TVETs that are not complete and work out how much money we require in order for them to be completed. And we're going to be presenting this, and hopefully this house will allocate resources so that we can complete those particular TVETs that are not completed, even as we do the new ones. And in terms of the non-remittance of capitation to TVETs, just like in universities, that issue has been addressed. I came into office and I found it was an issue, and we addressed it. And now the resources are released at the same time as when we are releasing the university capitation. So like now we are releasing the ones for the universities, and we are releasing together with the ones of TVETs because they face the same issues. So it's already been addressed. Thank you.
Which one has India answered?
But by sub-county directors of education that are mobilized.
Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you. Quite recently, we got resources to do 2022, I think 2023, we got resources to buy some vehicles for sub-counties, and they were distributed and they got finished. So we are coming back again to request for more resources and more budget to ensure that at least each sub-county has a means as a vehicle. So the challenge that we have is not that we do not want to give them vehicles, the budgetary limitations. But once we buy, we continue allocating them, and we are reducing the number. So it is in the pipeline. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 099 of 2024. Member for Kibwezi West, Mwengi Mutuse. I have received a letter from Mwengi Mutuse nominating Edwin Mugo Gishuki to ask the question on his behalf. Edwin, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question 099/24 on behalf of Honorable Mwengi Mutuse. Could the Cabinet Secretary, one, confirm that 12,000 acres of land located at Kisayani Kibwezi West constituency was surrendered by the locals to the University of Nairobi in the year 1988 with the proposal that a higher education institution would be set up in the area. Two, explain why it has taken inordinately long for the university to establish processes in building and opening of the university on the said land. Three, clarify whether there are plans to start a university campus within the existing buildings, and if not, state whether the land can revert to its original owners. Four, clarify whether sections of the land are being allowed to private investors, and if so, provide the measures put in place to ensure there is transparency and public participation, including consultation with elected leaders in this process. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to confirm that the University of Nairobi has ownership of the 12,000 acres of land at Kisayani, Kibwezi West constituency under land reference number 25060. This land was allocated to the university by the government of Kenya in 1988, following a comprehensive process of relocation and compensation of the original occupants. The primary purpose, Mr. Speaker, of the allocation of the land was to establish a specialized research and training institute focusing on range management and dry land natural resources. Mr. Speaker, despite the lack of funding that has hindered the development of large-scale physical infrastructure, The university has actively utilized the land and Kisayani for research, training, and community outreach. The strategies that the university has employed to use the land are as follows. Between 1988 and 1992, the university developed essential infrastructure to support both short and long-term academic programs alongside research facilities and training infrastructure. Number two, through international collaboration, particularly with Mashavu University from Israel and supported by USAID funding, the university implemented a state-of-the-art irrigation demonstration center. This project, which operated from 1992 to 2004, successfully cultivated Asian vegetables, tropical crops, and fruits, providing significant employment opportunities and enhancing food security for the local community. During this period, the university established the Institute of Dryland Research Development and Utilization, which has been instrumental in conducting research on dryland resource utilization. The Institute actively engages with local communities through workshops and seminars focusing on livestock, husbandry, dryland crops, forestry, and land rehabilitation. The university actively uses infrastructure on the land for departmental research, training, and community support. Mr. Speaker, the Institute for Dryland Research, Development, and Utilization operates as a fully fledged unit of the University of Nairobi. The facility serves as an integral dryland research academic center of excellence, supporting various departments across the university as follows. The Department of Land Resource Management and Agricultural Technology conducts research in the rangeland ecology and biodiversity conservation. Number two, the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine utilizes the facility for animal health research and community outreach services. Number three, the Department of Geospatial and Space Technology conducts experiential learning, inland survey, and remote sensing. Number four, in collaboration with the Kenya Meteorological Services and the Ministry of Environment, the Department of Geology has established a seismology center for monitoring seismic activities. And number five, the Department of Chemistry conducts significant research on ethnometrical plants and herbs. Mr. Speaker, the Institute maintains a comprehensive demonstration field where the university promotes livestock management, agriculture, dryland pasture, production, and horticultural crops. The seemingly undeveloped portions of the land serve a crucial purpose in ecological studies and biodiversity monitoring and conservation. The land is therefore under active utilization. The original owners were duly compensated and resettled in Masangaleni, and therefore there are no grounds for reversion of ownership. Going into the future, Mr. Speaker, the university's master plan envisions the advancement of the Kisayani site through the following plans: partnering with the county government of Makueni to integrate local development priorities into research and education, exploring carbon trading opportunities through reforestation and dryland biodiversity conservation initiatives, and three, mobilizing resources in the area of climate resilience and fostering partnerships that advance the university's mission. Mr. Speaker, no part of the land has been allocated to private investors. The Land Commission acquired 2 hectares, that is measuring 6.8 acres of the land, for upgrading of the Kibwezi Mutomo Kitui Kabati Migwane Road project. The university has current partnership with the Kenya Forestry Research Institute and the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, which advance the university's research objectives. KEFRI conducts valuable research on Vokensil, benefiting dryland communities, while ITTA supports the Kibwezi Entrepreneur Youth Group, providing crucial agricultural entrepreneurship training. The university has also partnered with the Utafiti Day Boarding Primary School, which occupies a portion of the land. The land occupied by the school is not used for any private activities and does not affect the university's development. I submit.
Thank you.
both for primary and secondary and the ordinary schools. And secondary and the ordinary schools. And 2, provide details of the criteria used to post teachers to special needs institutions, including whether it considered the ratio of teachers to pupils. And lastly, 3, elaborate on the measures being taken by the ministry to ensure that special needs institutions have enough teachers and necessary facilities as provided in the ordinary schools. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There are 378 integrated primary schools. There are 378 integrated primary special needs education schools in the country with an enrollment of 40,282 learners. There are 2,514 special primary schools with an enrollment of 77,283 learners. There are 81 secondary schools, special needs education schools with a total enrollment of 7,183 learners. There are 155 junior school special needs education institutions with an enrollment of 3,443 learners. We also have 112 pre-vocational special needs education institutions with a total enrollment of 2,067 learners. Mr. Speaker, the TSC Commission deploys teachers to special needs education schools based on 1, the ratio of teachers to pupils, number 2, the type of disability, and number 3, the level of disability. Accordingly, Mr. Speaker, pursuant to that classification of disability under the sector policy of learners and trainees with disabilities 2018, the pupil-teacher ratio for various categories of SNE of special needs education is as shown as follows. Number 1, the mentally handicapped have a teacher-student ratio of 1 to 10. Mentally handicapped that is severe has a teacher-student ratio of 1 to 4. Autism has a teacher-learner ratio of 1 to 4. Physically handicapped have a teacher-learner ratio of 1 to 15. Cerebral palsy has a teacher-learner ratio of 1 to 4. Hearing impaired has a teacher-learner ratio of 1 to 12. Visually impaired has a teacher-learner ratio of 1 to 15. The deaf-blind have a teacher-learner ratio of 1 to 1. To address the current teacher shortage in special schools and units, the Teacher Service Commission has employed the following measures. 1, it has deployed 5,363 qualified teachers from regular schools to special schools and units in the 2023-2024 and 2024-2025 financial year in 4 phases as follows. In phase 1, it was done in May 2024, and 1,763 teachers were deployed. In phase 2, September 2024, 1,200 teachers were deployed. In phase 3, January 2025, it is intended to deploy 1,200 teachers, and in phase 4, June 2025, we'll deploy another 1,200 teachers. Notably, Mr. Speaker, the Commission has completed the deployment of teachers in phase 1 and 2, and will commence the deployment of the phase 3 and 4 in January. Currently, the Commission is in the process of recruiting 344 special needs education teachers interns handling learners with special needs, namely cerebral palsy, hearing impaired, visually impaired, and physically impaired. I submit.
Yes, Odanga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, special needs education institutions need to be considered as really special and given priority even over other institutions in the country. Looking at the numbers of pupils and students that are provided by the Cabinet Secretary, this comes to over 200,000 learners countrywide. And I'm not satisfied that there are only 81 secondary school special needs education institutions. If that is true, then I think that Kenyans are being starved of special needs education institutions in the country, and something needs to be done to improve. Because if you have over 200,000, those are mainly pupils, and then 81, those are mainly pupils, and then main institutions, which are mainly in primary, and only 81 in secondary. Then that means that these pupils who complete secondary, primary in special needs education are disappearing somewhere. This needs to be addressed by the Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Speaker. Also, there are issues in number 2 when looking at the ratio of pupil or students to teachers. For a mentally handicapped institution to have a ratio of 1 to 10, this is far below the par, and this needs to be addressed. These are mentally handicapped children, having one teacher handling 10 of them. Then there's something totally wrong that needs to be addressed urgently. Honorable Speaker, the ratio is far too low, and this needs to be addressed. Honorable Speaker, many of these teachers, which the Cabinet Secretary have said, who have transited from the ordinary schools to the special needs institutions, take too long even to be paid their allowances. You know, they are paid some allowances. And even I'm bothered why some aspects of the trainers are handled in the Teacher Service Commission and other aspects are handled by the ministry. Why not all of them go to the Teacher Service Commission so that they are handled in one place? Because issues like approving and moving them from the ordinary schools to the special needs, the issues are handled at the ministry. The budget is being handled at the ministry. So there is an issue that needs to be addressed here to make sure that these teachers are supported. They are given their allowances. You can imagine the children they are handling. They take them to sports, they are teaching them throughout, and then they are not given their allowances on time, and even their payment, Honorable Speaker, is low. The aids, teachers need them, the assistive devices, they also need them.
Instead of,
Honorable Speaker.
you are supposed to seek a clarification on the answer as given, but you are now debating.
I'm most obliged, Honorable Speaker. So I would like the Cabinet Secretary to give more information. I'm not totally satisfied with the information given. There are still lots of loopholes that he needs to provide. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Nabi.
Honorable Speaker, further to the answers given by the Cabinet Secretary, I would want to find out whether the Cabinet Secretary is aware, number one, that Mlimani Special School, Mukuyu Special School, Maturu Special School, and Lumani Special School do not have enough teachers in the ratio he has indicated. Secondly, whether the Cabinet Secretary is aware that in preparation for the CBC implementation in the senior school, there are no schools in some sub-counties that will ensure 100% transition of students who require special schools. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Masito is not Masito, Mama Mombasa. You are sitting in...
Mheshimiwa Spika, samahani leo sehemu yangu imevamiwa, ndio maana nimekaa huku Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa kumuuliza Bwana Waziri, kwa nini walimu wengi wamefanya kazi muda mrefu bila wao kupata promotion, Mheshimiwa Spika, na kisha kuna ile pesa ambao wanafunzi wanalipishwa wanaita ya Wanahitaji ile pesa. Samahani, remedial. Unapata mwanafunzi amelipa school fees yote lakini anafukuzwa nyumbani kwa sababu ya remedial. Hii pesa ya remedial, Mheshimiwa Waziri, imekuja kusaidia kitu gani na mbona lazima watoto walipe, Mheshimiwa Spika?
Masomo ya ziada.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika, wakati mwingine mwanafunzi mshinda mwalimu. Mheshimiwa Waziri, tungependa kujua kwa nini watoto wanalipa masomo ya ziada, ile pesa ya masomo ya ziada, na wakati ambapo watakuwa wamelipa ile karo na bado wanafukuzwa shule, Mheshimiwa Spika. Na hawa walimu pia wanalazimishwa kuhamishwa kwenda katika shule zingine za mbali sana, na nyumbani inawasumbua sana, wanaacha familia hawawezi kuweza kufocus na ile masomo, Mheshimiwa Spika. Asante sana Waziri.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The ratios that we have given were analyzed in terms of the severity of the handicap and the disability, and where we will determine that there are shortages, it is because we do not have enough teachers. And what we are doing, as indicated earlier, the same challenges that we have in the ordinary schools are the same ones we have in the special needs school, but we'll give it special attention so that we can have many more teachers being employed for the special needs, so that we reduce the number of the gap of the teacher-learner ratio. In terms of the question relating to the teachers' allowances, that is handled by the Teacher Service Commission. They actually handle all the issues relating to both the teachers that are in normal schools and the teachers that are in the special needs schools. We do not deal with that aspect. We only deal with policy, and when issues like this have come, we liaise with TSC and we come up with policies that can make their work smoother and that much more cohesive. Now, in terms of the schools that Honorable Nabi has indicated that they do not have the the teacher-learner ratio that I have indicated, I don't have the details at hand of the numbers and the data, but once we determine, then we'll liaise with TSC to see whether there is something that can be done in that space. I don't have the actual numbers for those particular schools. That is Lumani, Makuyu School, and Mulanyu Special School. So we'll look into it and get the data so that we can be able to assist and work with TSC to see what can be done, especially in the 20,000 teachers that are going to be employed. We see whether we can have some done for that space. The question of 100% transition is the same thing that we are working on. As you are aware, we are doing a transition right now, and we are preparing the various classrooms, et cetera, to ensure that our students have transition seamlessly so that they can continue with their studies. So we are looking into that particular sector, and we are ongoing doing the infrastructure development.